All right, guys, today's episode is all about brotherhood. And I think there is a big missing piece here for men because I didn't realize how important this was until I got out of the military and got out of protection and started to live a life of isolation. I didn't have a lot of friends in the area that I lived in when I left working overseas. I didn't really, it was hard for me to make friends because I had such a high standard for men coming out of being an elite soldier to being in a high level team protecting the US ambassador to Iraq. So I had this bar just set so high for guys. So it was very hard for me to have friends. I had this big judgment piece around other men. And I think part of that was because the fact that I hadn't done enough work on myself to realize that I was judging guys a lot. I was judging them for the men they weren't, just because they didn't have the shared experiences that I had. And I had been so used to being surrounded by men who shared my experiences that we generally just kind of bonded in the sense that we were somewhere extremely difficult, and it was a select group of men that could make it to that level. And so right there, we already had this big piece in common in our lives because that piece was also a big part of who we were in general. And so we had this inherent brotherhood already baked into the lifestyle. But when I left that and I came back out to the real world, because remember, I got into the military at 17. So at 28, I got out of the military or out of doing protection, a military style job, and came back to the real world, and really struggled to make friends. And I find that a lot of men have a hard time making friends. And I get this all the time from coaching clients to people who reach out to me on Instagram and other social media platforms. Guys are really craving a good group of men to surround them with, but they don't know, especially at getting older in life, like men just don't know how to make friends. And so I smile at this because I was in this place before. I didn't know how to make friends. And I didn't realize how much I needed good men around me to help support me, to know that I wasn't alone in some of my darker thoughts, some of my struggles that I was having, and men to celebrate even the good things that were going on in my life. There's a difference between having a good, solid group of men around you and having your women friends. And it's okay. It's not anything bad about having a close group of women friends, but there's a different type of bond for men, just like there is when women have their own friends who are women. There's a different type of bond because we can associate with understanding what it's like to be a man in this world. And so when we really dive into that type of brotherhood and realize, okay, there's an important piece here for us to really be happy creatures on this planet, we really have to dive into, okay, how do we cultivate this friendship with men in more advanced years, right? In higher ages, and understanding that a lot of men are set in their ways. But when you crack the door just a little bit of yourself, a lot of times men jump right in there and they're right on board with you. And I see this at my events. And I see this at a lot of men's events that I attend and speak at and I've participated in, is that when one guy opens up, the rest of the group gets opened up. The rest of the group is like, oh crap, yeah, man, like I have that same issue. Or, oh, wow, I didn't know that I had already experienced that. I could help this guy. And that's where a lot of this cultivating of brotherhood comes out, is when we actually get vulnerable and expose ourselves and open up to other men and stop protecting, stop having that ego to protect ourselves, right? Because in the end of the day, when we have that, we're just blocking the experiences we can have in life, and we're blocking the connections, all because we're trying to protect some version of ourselves that was told if we expose it, then we're going to be emasculated. But at the end of the day, the brotherhood is so important. And I will tell you this right now, is when men hear the things that you're going through in life, whether it's your positive things or your negative things, when men hear that and they're able to support you in either or, they don't actually judge you, which is the craziest part. I used to think that they would judge you, and I thought I would judge other men. I honestly thought that if they exposed that stuff, I would start to judge them. And now when guys say stuff, when guys talk about their struggles, or they talk about the things that they're going through in life, the things that they're conflicted in, the things that really like hurt their emotional state or ego, or even just exposing themselves and saying, bro, I'm really proud of myself, I did this. When that happens, like, I actually feel so much love for that brother, because I'm like, dude, that is amazing. One, that you're willing to share that. And number two, that you're willing to actually be like, hey, come help me with it. And I think that's the other piece to that brotherhood. When we realize that we have support from our brothers, we're able to say, wow, I'm not alone in this fight. And I will tell you guys that, most men don't realize that even the darkest shit, the worst shit you've done in your life, there are actually a handful of men in any given group that have those same things that have happened or gone on or are going on in their lives. You would be shocked to know that so many brothers share a lot of what you're going through. And I think when we realize that, we're able as men to say, holy shit, like, I'm going to open up here, and I actually am not alone. I have support, and I don't feel like I'm the only guy in the world going through this. I can truly say that, wow, I have some shit, but a lot of men have some shit. And nobody is perfect. And to look at other men and think like, oh, they're better than you, or oh, they probably don't have anything that's going on in their lives that's affecting them negatively. Well, you're making up a story that's not true, because they do have those things. They have the issues in their lives, and they need you to share that with, so that they can actually relieve themselves of a lot of that pain and a lot of that stress, just like you need them. And so I challenge men all the time to do this, and it's to find a brother out there. Maybe it's somebody that's already in your life who has shown you a lot of love and support. Maybe it's somebody who's in your life that, has been there in the darkest times and never judged you, but grabbing somebody, another man in your life that that feels pretty safe, and allowing him to see maybe a little bit more about your insecurities, maybe a little bit more about your vulnerability, and then allowing him to support you in that, giving him the opportunity to be that brother. And if you do that, then the more you flex that muscle, the more you're going to open up to doing that in bigger communities. And trust me, guys, I know how scary that sounds. I know what that feels like, because there was absolutely no way, like 3-4 years ago, you could have convinced me I would open up about the stuff that I have opened up about, not only in group forums, but on my podcasts, in coaching, in all the things that I do in life. And so when I realized, wow, I'm even opening up about these things, I know that any one of you men, anybody listening and watching this, has that ability. So challenge yourself to say, wow, how do I flex this muscle just a little bit? You don't have to go all in the first time you do it, but how do I do this just a little bit? How do I give a little more than what I normally do to people? And how do I share that? And then when you do, okay, how does that feel? You got to check in with yourself. Man, that was super scary, but it was so dope how my buddy responded to that like now I feel more comfortable sharing other stuff with him. Or the fact that, oh man, that felt super awkward, and then it got really awkward. Maybe that's not a brother that like I can share those things with. Maybe that's not a brother that I want in my life. So maybe I need to look somewhere else too. And just remember that like these things, getting them off your chest is something that can help you not only in your happiness, but just with your stress and anxiety and the pressure you put on yourself and the negative self-talk. Because what happens is when we can't find an external source to give some of this to allow them to support us in this, we end up attacking ourselves. And when we attack ourselves, we do it in a very, very bad way, because we know all of our weaknesses, because we are us. And so just remember that if you're allowing yourself to sit in that anxiety and depression and sadness and regret and shame and guilt, well, guys, if you share that with a brother, they can help you through that. Somebody can help you through that process so you can shed that off and you can move forward in progress and happiness. So think about what you're doing to yourself and to your family and to the people in your lives when you're not having your group of brothers help you and support you and surround you and give you that love that you can get from your brothers. So think about that the next time you have something you're holding back and you're not sharing it with the men in your life who you are close with. Because how close are you really with them if you're not willing to share and be vulnerable? And it's the same thing at the Wildman experience. You know, when I host that, it's like they learn more about each other in 3 days than I'm sure their friends of 20 years know about them. Just by the simple act of sharing information that is protected to them, something that isn't what they willingly share on a regular basis. And when they do that, it allows them to create deeper connections, not only with the men at the event, but it allows them to create deeper connections with the people back at home when they get there. So guys, remember, your brotherhood is sacred. Your brotherhood is important. You need to find those brothers who can support you, who can give you grace, who can give you that, love when you are having big accomplishments and successes and not trying to bring you down. And you deserve those types of men who challenge you to up level, who challenge you to be this better version of yourself, this heightened version of yourself. So remember that brotherhoods are important. We're going to talk more about this in future episodes, but right now, this is just the initial entrance to, hey, where is your brotherhood? Who's in it? And what are they doing for you? And what are you doing for them?